This is Akashavani Mangaluru. Yuvavani. Dear friends, welcome to today's English Yuvavani program. In today's program, the students of Manipal Institute of Communication, MAHE Manipal, are going to present an interesting discussion on the topic pressure cooker.
Namaste friends. I am a student of Manipal Institute of Communication and today I have brought my friends Pranav, Swada, Shreyobardhan, Harshita, Karishma, Tarun, Harivarshan and Akshata. And today we're going to talk about the term pressure on our program called Pressure Cooker. Ever feel it? That weight that sneaks up on you, wraps around your shoulders and makes your heart race? It's there when you're staring at a to-do list that seems never-ending, when deadlines are looming, expectations are soaring, or when the voices of others are just a little louder than your own. We all know it. It's called pressure. And no, it's not just one thing. It's everywhere, like the invisible air we breathe. It's in the eyes of a parent who just wants the best for you, in the silence of an exam room, in the buzz of a high-stakes meeting. Sometimes it's even the pressure we create for ourselves, the bar we keep racing, always reaching, never quite satisfied. Pressure to succeed, pressure to be perfect, pressure to be fitting. It wears different faces, shows up in different moments. Family pressure, career pressure, academic pressure, even the quiet pressure that whispers inside your head when no one else is around. But here's the thing about pressure. It's not just a force pushing you down. It can also be the thing that pushes you forward. It shapes you, molds you, forces you to make choices, take chances, and sometimes rise higher than you ever thought you could. So, what's your pressure? Is it pulling you down or is it pushing you up? We're going to dive into those questions, explore the weight we carry. Stick around, let's unpack it together. Because pressure, well, it's just part of the story. And how it ends, that's up to you. This is just the beginning. Tarun, can you draw us a picture of how the pressure from society can affect one?
Imagine you're sitting in a classroom, surrounded by your peers. The teacher asks the class, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" A wave of confident answer fills the room. Doctors, engineers and lawyers. And then there is you, staring at your notebook, unsure of what to say. And have you ever felt like you're trapped in a hamster wheel of societal expectations? You know, that invisible force that seems to push us in directions we might not always want to go. It's like trying to swim against the tide, but instead of water, it's a sea of shoulds. Imagine growing up in a world where success is measured by degrees, jobs, and status. It's like being in a never-ending game of keep up with the Jones, but with the Jones bank account. For young people, this pressure can be tough. They might feel like they have to hide their true selves, their passions, or their dreams. It's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, and the round hole is constantly changing shape. Parents often face immense pressure to provide for their children and ensure their success. It's a tough balancing act, trying to meet everyone's expectation while also trying to keep their sanity. Now let's be real. This societal pressure thing can be pretty relatable, right? It's like trying to juggle a bunch of balls while also riding a unicycle on a tightrope. And to make things even more fun, the balls are constantly changing size and weight. But here's the thing, you're not alone in this. Millions of people around the world are facing similar challenges. It's like being stuck in a traffic on a rainy day, but at least you're not the only one stuck. One of the biggest pressures young people face is the expectation to follow in their parents' footsteps, especially when it comes to career or education. This can be particularly challenging when the family business or profession doesn't align with your interest or passion. It's okay to choose a different path. It's okay to break free from the mold and pursue your own dreams. Your happiness and fulfillment matter more than living up to someone else's expectations. So, how can we cope with societal pressure? Well, one way is to develop a strong sense of self-worth. It's like building a fortress around your heart. When you believe in yourself, you're less likely to be swayed by external expectations. And it's okay to take breaks. It's like giving your brain a vacation from all the stress. So go ahead, binge watch that show, read a book, or just take a nap. You deserve it. Remember, sometimes the best thing to do is to just take a deep breath and say, I'm doing my own thing now and I'm loving it.
Well, that's one way to cope with it. Swada, can we discuss more on how your family might just want the best for you, but it comes down on you?
It's Sunday morning, and your beloved mother hands you a cup of boiling hot tea and your favorite cookies as she sits down in front of you for a discussion, which most likely would range from a light gossip session to a lengthy philosophical lecture on how to improve your lifestyle. Your mother switches topics a lot. However, you are terrified of the questions that will be thrown at you at any moment. So you're not even enjoying the tea. The feeling of hiding yourself from your own family and finding solace in your bedroom has been felt by a lot of people, then they'll admit. Just out of fear of disappointing their own people. It has always been preached that our parents or guardians are the only people in this whole world who will look after you and make sure you are on the right path. Which is very true to some extent, but sometimes the need to make sure gives rise to the need to control, which limits the room for a healthy discussion in the near future. This constant nagging pressure of following the family orders rather than following your own self takes the joy of living out of some people. And as sad as it may sound, it is very true. Be it be academic with parents giving several warnings to score only above 90%, or uncles and aunts commenting on your body, skin and whatnot, without any hesitation or prior thoughts too. And of course there's the, when will you get married? You're already in your late 30s or something. We all in some ways have been there and done that. Needless to say, it messes up one's psychological aspects, followed by countless amounts of stress and burnouts, especially in today's technological days when emotions only play their role when they are needed. On the other hand, the normalization of familial pressure is so present that even if a student's parents are understanding, they'll end up pressuring themselves on their parents' behalf. This pressure can be reduced by taking the route of communication, a healthy one in which no one is screaming and arguing, which is hard to achieve, we must admit, but it would help in understanding each other's perspective and from where their concern is arising from. After all, it's their first lives too. Planning family outings might add functionality to a dysfunctional family because spending time regularly helps create a bond which won't run on expectations but genuine content. But keeping a PowerPoint presentation as backup plan is also not a bad idea.
A friend in need is a friend indeed. A quote we've all heard of, right? Well, sometimes you can feel pressure from a friend indeed. Shreyobardhan, what are your 2 cents on it?
On this day, China's first human space flight mission Shenzhou 5 was launched. Just a fact before we dive down on the topic. As soon as we enter school, we are influenced by the people around us, primarily friends. We don't understand it because we are very young at that time, but the problem catches up in our teenage years. There is a strong sense of urgency to fit in, to do the same activities in order to look cool. For example, smoking, drinking, making fun of others for no reason. Personally, I haven't faced it, but I know a lot of people who have gone through it. There is always pressure to maintain friendships. I have observed that we unknowingly give priority to these instead of other commitments. And it just keeps happening after a certain point. For me, having a big circle of friends is really confusing because I cannot understand who is genuine and who isn't. Comparison. That word hits hard if our friends constantly compare a person with someone who is at the top of his game. More often than not, he will be dejected, demotivated, and will have low confidence to do anything significant. We will remember the taunts, teases, and weird remarks about ourselves. This does not bode well with our personal development and puts a strain in our friendship. Often, I have noticed people stressing over the fact that they are not there at the most happening place in the town, city, or country. They think, oh, what he will think about me? Will I be cool enough if I am not present? There is a fear regarding a kind of perception which will be eventually created. Expectations. After being friends for some time, people expect us to behave in a certain way, have common likings, and be excited whenever a meeting takes place. Sometimes it's difficult to understand and cope with. Many a times I haven't understood them, and the pressure to really match up to their expectations was hard. Okay, till now we have been discussing about the negative consequences of pressure from our friends. But if you are in a position where you feel that you need to have a companion, what will you do? Earlier, it was easy. You start off by conversing on a good topic and you hit it off. Social media, video games, etc. are common threads which link many of the youngsters at present. Have you ever thought how will you make friends if you do not like the things which I mentioned earlier? The best part is when my closest friend really pushes me to work hard, be practical and productive. I enjoy such pressure and it really motivates me to give my best. At this point, the pressure starts being enjoyable and I know that we want the best for each other.
Well, now we know pressure doesn't always have to be enunciated in a negative connotation. Harshita, you tell me, have you felt any kind of pressure, maybe in terms of your love life?
Let me get into that. You know, when you're watching a cheesy Kajol rom-com, or when you're scrolling through Instagram or chatting with friends, when suddenly it hits you. Everyone seems to be in the perfect relationship. You start asking yourself, wait, am I missing out? Should I be in a relationship too? Well, that's exactly what I'll be diving into today. Peer pressure in relationships. So, picture this. You're chilling with your friends and it seems like everyone's talking about their relationships. One friend's planning a cute surprise weekend getaway. Another just had the I love you conversation. Forget that. Have you been on Instagram and been bombarded with uber wholesome pictures of those perfect couples with their perfect vacation snaps? And suddenly, it feels like you should be doing the same. Even if you're not sure, you'll be ready for it. And trust me, it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking, I better get into something fast or I'll feel left out. But when you're rushing into relationships for the wrong reasons, it almost never ends well. Then there's that pressure to move at a certain pace. Did you know that research shows that 72% of people believe media influences their views on romance and relationships, which can lead to unrealistic standards of love? This can lead to major comparisons being made. Have you ever caught yourself comparing a relationship to others? Like, oh, they've already had the entire I love you talk. Should we too? Or have you been influenced by your favorite romance novel and wanted the same things in your relationship? I'm talking to you, hopeless romantics. It's stressful, right? But here's the thing. Relationships don't come with a timeline. What works for one couple might not be right for you. I've had friends tell me things like, you should be more serious by now. Or, why aren't you taking that next step? Honestly, I've also been ridiculed at times for being too casual, just because I was taking things at my own pace, which necessarily might not be the same as theirs. But the truth is, only you know what feels right for your relationship. It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. And when you start making choice based on what others expect, you're just setting yourself up for unnecessary stress. And don't even get me started on how society loves to push gender roles on us in relationships. Boys are expected to be tough and distant, while girls are supposed to be nurturing and emotional. Heck, you know, this one time I asked a guy out and my friend started lecturing me on how only guys should be asking girls out. But honestly, those stereotypes, they don't help anyone. The best relationships are the ones where you can just be yourself without trying to fit into a mold that doesn't suit you. And here's a big one. Pressure from friends about your relationship. Maybe they don't like your partner or they think it's time for breakup. And while it's cool to get advice from people who care about you, at the end of the day, it's your relationship. They don't know the intricacies of the relationship and your partner. You shouldn't let anyone else's opinions force you into decisions you're not ready to make. So, what's the takeaway? It's pretty simple actually. Communication. Yeah, I know it sounds basic and super cliche, but talking openly with your partner about how you feel is key. Set your own boundaries. Don't rush just because you're being pushed. And trust yourself. If it feels right for you, that's what matters. So, let me reiterate again. Your relationship journey is your own. Don't let outside pressure make you rush into decisions that don't feel right. Take your time, communicate, and above all, stay true to yourself.
I've always been that person that seeks academic validation from every school I've been to. Karishma, What were you like in your school life? I remember when wanting to learn came easy. Participating in class, acing exams, and being excited about what I was going to learn that day. You know what I'm talking about? That time when passing an exam was not a blessing, but a given. If I think back, I can't pinpoint the exact moment this struck. It just happens. Next thing you know, you've slowly moved from the first bench to the very last, craning to see what's on the board, or sometimes not even bothering to do that. So, what was once easy now becomes a chore in the blink of an eye. You stop applying yourself, get more and more frustrated, and that backbench feels more comfortable than home now. The cycle has begun with no end in sight. Your parents start getting worried, your teachers ask you what's wrong, and your friends say you don't seem yourself anymore. From the very beginning, you're told your only purpose is to study well, to get good grades, to get a great job, and that's all you need to worry about. But now that purpose isn't so easy to achieve. I could have the perfect GPA, but then, did I spend all my time studying and not enough time on my extracurriculars? If I've somehow managed to do both, do I still know how to present myself in a way that is agreeable to everyone else? Do I know how to give a good interview? The requirements change so fast and so often that it's impossible to keep up. It's easy to get frustrated at my academics when they don't teach me how to do my taxes or juggle all my classes and student clubs. But hey, at least I remember the Pythagorean formula. Academic pressure builds slowly throughout the years until suddenly you're creatively, even mentally burnt out and you feel like you haven't even done anything to feel this way. This type of pressure isn't loud. It's purposely staying up late despite having class in the morning to feel like you're gaining some control over your day. It's not completing anything you start and feeling dissatisfied with the result when you're stumbling and you don't realize it's on a tightrope till just before you feel like you're about to fall. It's too easy to give in to the crushing weight. It takes time, but eventually you realize you don't want to continue being the worst version of yourself. So you grit your teeth, stand your ground, and start facing yourself. The good and the bad head on. Just remember, pressure is part of the process, but it doesn't define your path. Success isn't a straight line and grades aren't the only measure of who you are or what you're capable of. Take it one step at a time. You've got dreams to chase, but you also have the right to pause, breathe, and grow at your own pace. So keep going, keep believing, and know that you're more than enough always. Your journey is uniquely yours, and that's where your worth truly lies. Yes, that's all well and good. But it doesn't stop there, does it, Pranav?
You know how it goes. You're at a family gathering, innocently grabbing your third plate of biryani, and suddenly it happens. Beta, what's the plan? Any internships? Placements? Boom, you're cornered. Trapped between your uncle's job expectations and your aunt's unsolicited advice about your government exams. Why do these conversations always happen when your mouth is full? Alright, let's be real. We all feel it. This invisible pressure to get somewhere, to be someone, faster than we can figure out what we even want. We are expected to have it all figured out by like 25. Career, success, stability, the whole package. It's like playing a game of musical chairs, except no one told you what the price is and the music never stops. And it's funny because half the time we don't even know what we are running towards. Because if you don't figure it out, well, someone else will. And that's the fear, right? That everyone else is moving faster and you're still stuck in loading mode. Everyone around you seems to be in the zone. Your friends are picking up new certifications, working on side projects, applying to jobs. Man, someone just finished their 4th internship and you're stuck scrolling at Instagram at 3 a.m. wondering if binge watching a show counts as a hobby. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. But here's the thing, the whole race to build the perfect career, it feels like a video game you didn't sign up for. There's always one more level, one more project, one more deadline, one more, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? And you know what's wild? Sometimes it feels like even if you hit those milestones, it's not enough. It's exhausting, isn't it? Oh, and LinkedIn? Don't even get me started. That place feels like a 24/7 success party that you didn't RSVP to. Delighted to share, I've started my new role as, yeah man, good for you. Meanwhile, I'm over here wondering if professional overthinker counts as a skill. Then there's the classic office talk. Oh, so where do you see yourself in 5 years? Honestly, at this point, I just want to be alive, well-fed and maybe slightly less confused. That counts, right? But here's the funny thing. No one talks about the flops. that one rejection email you got after 3 rounds of interviews, or how you spent hours writing a cover letter only to forget to attach your CV. True story. Happened to a friend, definitely not me. And let's not forget those moments of crisis when you're sitting at 2 a.m. thinking, maybe I should just open a Pani Puri stall on the beach, which to be fair doesn't sound like the worst idea. But here's the twist, you're not alone. Everyone's on their own weird timeline, winging it half the time, just like you. No one really has it figured it out, and the ones who seem like they do, they're probably Googling how to figure out life, just like the rest of us. Maybe it's okay to admit that we don't have all the answers just yet, and figuring things out, it's not a sprint. It's more like a marathon, a messy one, with snack breaks in between. Anyway, no rush, yeah? We've got time, and hey, sometimes the trick is just enjoying the little breaks along the way. Speaking of which, ever feel like those breaks come with their own kind of pressure? You know, the pressure to keep up with everyone outside of work too.
Now, Harivarshan, do you care to join me in discussing pressure that comes down on you in terms of money?
You know what? Camels carry loads that are 2.5 times heavier than their weight. An average donkey can carry up to 50 kg stone on its back. How could we expect the ordinary human with just 1,300 grams of brain, 70 kgs of weight, and 18 years of experience to carry this much pressure? Are they animals? Every college-going youngster faces the financial pressure, whether it's budgeting for essentials or finding ways to enjoy life on a tight budget. Financial stress is real. Let's talk about a common scenario. Picture this. You've got a weekend coming up. Your friends are planning a night out, but your bank account says, not today. Do you stay home and miss out, or go and risk being broke out until your next paycheck? These are the real decisions young people face every day. Financial decisions plays a crucial role in the day-to-day lives of a youngster. The desires and action totally vary the thought of mind, where it insists a path, whereas your heart doesn't. The 3 years of college is not a GVM movie where everything happens in a place with a smile in your face. When the reality hits hard, it's really tough to accept it. Actually, it gives you a chance to splash water in your face and give a reality check. With this much confusions, you'll finally decide, I'm not gonna do. Imagination is an inevitable part. Your peer must own an Apple 15 Pro Max, whereas you just roam around with a simple Android phone. The desire starts from that point. When you have a desire on something that becomes an essential to you, but your financial status doesn't constitute it. As a next step, you pressurize your parents. Now this pressure revolves around the family, and finally you get a phone that's cooked out of this pressure. At that moment, we realize it as an essential. Later, after the reality check, we find it out as a luxury good. The classification of these things are the most complicated part. We should be smart enough to figure whether it's much needed thing or is that our desire tends us to buy. And remember, don't compare your financial journey with others. Everyone's path is different. And what matters most is that you take control of your own situation. Prioritize your well-being over keeping up with others financially. Financial independence goes hand in hand. You have an option to buy the desired thing, but that takes half of your budget for the month. Segregation of money stays as a pivotal part in day-to-day life. Here, the decision making is very much important. Now you're in spot in terms of spending for the right thing. After all these burdens carried in the back, there is no difference between you and a donkey. But the sixth sense is that what we have as a tool to correct our mistakes and be a human. Pressure can't be neglected, but surely it can be cured. It depends on ourselves to be right on decisions. Only way to neglect the pressure, just enjoy the pressure. Life is very short and be happy.
We're almost there. The path won't be complete until and unless there's a sprinkle of pressure put on ourselves by none other than, drumroll please, well, ourselves. Right, Akshata?
You ever feel like you're stuck in a race, but no one told you where the finish line is? Like no matter how fast you run, you're just going in circles. It's strange, right? Because on the outside, everything looks fine, maybe even great. But on the inside, there's this weight, this constant hum in the background, reminding you that there's always more to do, always more to be. There are days where I wake up and the first thing I feel isn't excitement or energy, it's pressure.
This invisible force pushes me before I even get out of bed. It's like an unspoken checklist that I didn't write, but somehow I'm expected to follow. Be successful, be happy, be everything to everyone, and do it all without breaking a sweat. And the funny thing is, no one really tells you this directly, it just sort of creeps in. I used to think it was all in my head, but then I started noticing it everywhere. People walking around with this look in their eyes, like they're carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders. Some hide it better than others. Some push through it, smile, and act like everything is fine. But behind that smile, there's always something. The pressure to meet expectations. Yours, your family's, your friends, even society's. It's always there. Like a shadow that never leaves. And don't get me started on the pressure to be perfect. To have it all together. You know that feeling like you're in a room full of people and they're all looking at you, expecting you to be something, to do something, but you're not even sure what that is. You just know that if you mess up even a little, someone's going to notice. And that's terrifying. Because what if they see you for who you really are? Not that polished, I've got this under control version of you, but the real you, the one who's still figuring it out. But here's the thing. I'm starting to realize that this pressure is not going anywhere. I mean, life will always have its demands, right? There's always goals to reach, standards to meet, people to please. The difference is, now I'm learning how to face it. I'm learning how to take a step back and breathe. Because at the end of the day, all this pressure, it's not what defines me. It's just noise. Noise I can tune out when I need to. So what if we stop chasing this impossible version of being perfect and started accepting that it's okay not to have it all together? What if we let go of that idea that we're always behind, always missing out, and started realizing that life isn't a race? I'm slowly figuring it out that maybe, just maybe, the finish line doesn't exist. And that's okay. Maybe the goal isn't to win, but to keep moving forward at our own pace. And maybe the real victory is learning to live without constantly feeling like we're falling short.
And so here we are. We've spent some time walking through the different layers of pressure, from the family ties that can sometimes feel a little tight, to the career paths that twist and turn, to the expectations we place on ourselves. Higher, faster, better. It's funny, isn't it? How something we can't see or touch can have such a grip on us. We've explored the pressure from family, the workplace, school, even the pressure we put on ourselves to be someone, to be something. But pressure doesn't define us. How we respond to it, that's where the real story lies. And maybe, just maybe, the moments we feel most under pressure are the ones where we're about to break through. So what now? Maybe we take a breath. Maybe we remember that it's okay to pause, to reflect, to know that we're more than the sum of our deadlines, expectations, and to-do lists. In the end, pressure is just a part of the journey, not the destination. Keep going, keep growing. And remember, even in the heat of the pressure cooker, you're always shaping something new. It's all part of the process. As we close this chapter, take a moment. Breathe in, feel the weight, and then let it go. You've got this. We all do. Thanks for tuning in to Pressure Cooker. Stay tuned until next time when we cook up something new. Take it one step at a time. This is Malavika, and with me are Pranav, Swada, Shreyobardhan, Harshita, Karishma, Tarun, Harivarshan, and Akshata. Thanks for tuning in to Pressure Cooker.
Pressure cooker. That was a discussion diffused by the students of Manipal Institute of Communication, MAHE, Manipal. Dear friends, this is all in today's English Yuvavani program. Meet you next time. Thank you.